A Medieval Romance by Mark Twain. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Greg Marguerite. A Medieval Romance by Mark Twain. Chapter 1. The Secret Revealed. It was night. Stillness reigned in the grand old feudal castle of Klugenstein. The year 1222 was drawing to a close. Far away up in the tallest of the castle's towers a single light glimmered. A secret council was being held there. The stern old lord of Klugenstein sat in a chair of state meditating. Presently he said with a tender accent, "My daughter." A young man of noble presence, clad from head to heel in knightly mail, answered, "Speak, father." "My daughter, the time is come for the revealing of the mystery that hath puzzled all your young life. Know then that it had its birth in the matters which I shall now unfold. My brother Ulrich is the great Duke of Brandenburg. Our father on his deathbed decreed that if no son were born to Ulrich, the succession should pass to my house, provided a son were born to me. And further, in case no son were born to either, but only daughters, then the succession should pass to Ulrich's daughter, if she proved stainless. If she did not, my daughter should succeed, if she retained a blameless name. And so I and my old wife here prayed fervently for the good boon of a son, but the prayer was in vain. You were born to us. I was in despair. I saw the mighty prize slipping from my grasp, the splendid dream vanishing away, and I had been so hopeful. 5 years had Ulrich lived in wedlock, and yet his wife had borne no heir of either sex. But hold, I said, all is not lost. A saving scheme had shot athwart my brain. You were born at midnight. Only the leech, the nurse, and 6 waiting women knew your sex. I hanged them, every one of them, before an hour had sped. Next morning all the barony went mad with rejoicing over the proclamation that a son was born to Klugenstein, an heir to mighty Brandenburg. And well the secret has been kept. Your mother's own sister nursed your infancy, and from that time forward we feared nothing. When you were 10 years old, a daughter was born to Ulrich. We grieved, but hoped for good results from measles, or physicians, or other natural enemies of infancy, but were always disappointed. She lived, she throve, heaven's malison upon her. But it is nothing. We are safe. For, have we not a son? And is not our son the future Duke? Our well-beloved Conrad, is it not so? For, woman of 28 years as you are, my child, none other name than that hath ever fallen upon you. Now it hath come to pass that age hath laid its hand upon my brother, and he waxes feeble. The cares of state do tax him sore. Therefore he wills that you shall come to him, and be already Duke, in act, though not yet in name. Your servitors are ready. You journey forth tonight. Now listen well. Remember every word I say. There is a law as old as Germany, that if any woman sit for a single instant in the great ducal chair before she hath been absolutely crowned in presence of the people, she shall die. So heed my words. Pretend humility. Pronounce your judgments from the premier's chair, which stands at the foot of the throne. Do this until you are crowned and safe. It is not likely that your sex will ever be discovered, but still it is the part of wisdom to make all things as safe as may be in this treacherous earthly life. Oh, my father, is it for this that my life hath been a lie? Was it that I might cheat my unoffending cousin of her rights? Spare me, father, spare your child. What, hussy! In this my reward for the august fortune my brain has wrought for thee. By the bones of my father, this pulling sentiment of thine but ill accords with my humour. Betake thee to the Duke instantly, and beware how thou meddlest with my purpose. Let this suffice of the conversation. It is enough for us to know that the prayers, the entreaties, and the tears of the gentle-natured girl availed nothing. They nor anything could move the stout old lord of Klugenstein. And so, at last, with a heavy heart, the daughter saw the castle gates close behind her, and found herself riding away in the darkness, surrounded by a knightly array of armed vassals and a brave following of servants. The old baron sat silent for many minutes after his daughter's departure, and then he turned to his sad wife and said, "Dame, our matters seem speeding fairly. It is full 3 months since I sent the shrewd and handsome Count Detzin on his devilish mission to my brother's daughter Constance. If he fail, we are not wholly safe, but if he do succeed, no power can bar our girl from being Duchess, even though ill fortune should decree she never be Duke. My heart is full of bodings, yet all may still be well. Tush, woman, leave the owls to croak. To bed with ye, and dream of Brandenburg and grandeur. Chapter 2. Festivity and Tears. 6 days after the occurrences related in the above chapter, the brilliant capital of the Duchy of Brandenburg was resplendent with military pageantry, and noisy with the rejoicings of loyal multitudes. For Conrad, the young heir to the crown, was come. The old Duke's heart was full of happiness, for Conrad's handsome person and graceful bearing had won his love at once. The great halls of Ty Palace were thronged with nobles, who welcomed Conrad bravely, and so bright and happy did all things seem, that he felt his fears and sorrows passing away and giving place to a comforting contentment. But in a remote apartment of the palace a scene of a different nature was transpiring. By a window stood the Duke's only child, the Lady Constance. Her eyes were red and swollen, and full of tears. She was alone. Presently she fell to weeping anew, and said aloud, "The villain Detzin is gone, has fled the dukedom. I could not believe it at first, but, alas, it is too true. And I loved him so, I dared to love him, though I knew the Duke my father would never let me wed him. I loved him, but now I hate him. With all my soul I hate him. Oh, what is to become of me? I am lost, lost, lost. I shall go mad." Chapter 3. The Plot Thickens. Few months drifted by. All men published the praises of the young Conrad's government, and extolled the wisdom of his judgments, the mercifulness of his sentences, and the modesty with which he bore himself in his great office. The old Duke soon gave everything into his hands, and sat apart and listened with proud satisfaction while his heir delivered the decrees of the crown from the seat of the Premier. It seemed plain that one so loved and praised and honoured of all men as Conrad was could not be otherwise than happy. But strange enough, he was not, for he saw with dismay that the Princess Constance had begun to love him. The love of the rest of the world was happy fortune for him, but this was freighted with danger. And he saw, moreover, that the delighted Duke had discovered his daughter's passion likewise, and was already dreaming of a marriage. Every day somewhat of the deep sadness that had been in the princess's face faded away. Every day hope and animation beamed brighter from her eye, and by even vagrant smiles visited the face that had been so troubled. Conrad was appalled. He bitterly cursed himself for having yielded to the instinct that had made him seek the companionship of one of his own sex when he was new and a stranger in the palace, when he was sorrowful and yearned for a sympathy such as only women can give or feel. He now began to avoid his cousin, but this only made matters worse, for, naturally enough, the more he avoided her, the more she cast herself in his way. He marvelled at first at this, and next it startled him. The girl haunted him, she hunted him, she happened upon him at all times, in all places, in the night as well as in the day. She seemed singularly anxious. There was surely a mystery somewhere. This could not go on forever. All the world was talking about it. The Duke was beginning to look perplexed. Poor Conrad was becoming a very ghost through the dread and dire distress. One day, as he was emerging from a private ante-room attached to the picture gallery, Constance confronted him, and seizing both his hands in hers, exclaimed, "Oh, why do you avoid me? What have I done? What have I said to lose your kind opinion of me? For surely I had it once. Conrad, do not despise me, but pity a tortured heart. I cannot hold the words unspoken longer, lest they kill me. I love you, Conrad. There, despise me if you must, but they would be uttered." Conrad was speechless. Constance hesitated a moment, and then misinterpreted his silence. A wild gladness flamed in her eyes, and she flung her arms about his neck and said, "You relent, you relent! You can love me, you will love me! Oh, say you will, my own, my worshipped Conrad!" Conrad groaned aloud. A sickly pallor overspread his countenance, and he trembled like an aspen. Presently, in desperation, he thrust the poor girl from him, and cried, "You know not what you ask! It is for ever and ever impossible!" And then he fled like a criminal, and left the princess stupefied with amazement. A minute afterwards she was crying and sobbing there, and Conrad was crying and sobbing in his chamber. Both were in despair, both save ruin staring them in the face. By and by Constance rose slowly to her feet and moved away, saying, "To think that